The Philippine and Chinese warships face off around the Palawan Island. Earlier this week, a senior official of the Philippine Navy announced that it had deployed a warship off the waters of Palawan Island, its westernmost island, in order to protect its maritime interests, at a time of frequent standoffs with Chinese vessels in the South China Sea. In a statement issued on Wednesday, Commodore Edward Ike de Sagon said that the BRP Emilio Jacinto, one of the Philippine Navy's fleet of upgraded Jacinto-class corvettes, had departed for Palawan from Naval Base Heracleo Alano at Sangley Point in Cavite on Tuesday. Noting that tensions continue to simmer in the West Philippine Sea and our strategic interests in the region grow ever more vital, de Sagon, the commander of the Navy's Offshore Combat Force, OCF, said that the ship will serve as a reminder to all who would dare challenge our sovereignty that we stand ready and vigilant. He added that it would also bolster efforts of safeguarding the maritime domain and interests in the country's western frontier. The needle-shaped Palawan Island lies in the west of the Philippine Islands, facing directly onto the South China Sea, and is the jumping-off point for most deployments to the features and islands that Manila controls in the Spratly Islands. The deployment of the BRP Emilio Jacinto, which is named after a 19th-century Filipino revolutionary, is a direct response to a year of intensifying tensions in the South China Sea, or the West Philippine Sea, as Manila refers to it, where China has ramped up its incursions into Philippine-claimed waters. Much of China's attention has focused on Second Thomas Shoal, a submerged feature that lies within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Over the past year, Chinese vessels have attempted to impede the Philippine Navy from resupplying the troops aboard the BRP Sierra Madre, an old naval vessel intentionally grounded on Second Thomas Shoal in 1999, and since then host to a small contingent of Filipino Marines. There have been several incidents in which Chinese vessels have collided with Philippine resupply boats and deployed high-pressure water cannons against Philippine Coast Guard vessels. Indeed, Beijing's pressure campaign has prompted Manila to harden its position across the board. It has ramped up its security engagements with its treaty ally, the United States, expanding the U.S. military's access to 9 military bases, up from 5 previously, including 2 on Palawan. Manila has also pledged to upgrade the facilities on the 9 features and islands that it occupies in the South China Sea, including Second Thomas Shoal, to make them more habitable to the troops that occupy them. In November, the Philippines also began joint maritime exercises with the United States in the South China Sea. The third iteration of these exercises took place last week, with Armed Forces Chief Romeo Bronner saying that the exercise demonstrates our commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific and foster close cooperation towards further enhancing our maritime capabilities. Last year, the Philippines began to expose China's illicit actions in the disputed waters. It inserted reporters in routine patrols and resupply sorties to document interference by the Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia ships. The idea is to rally local and international support and impose reputational costs on Beijing. This approach made strides in rousing public backing for Manila's defense buildup, a stronger alliance with the United States, and a tougher stance against China. However, it also contributed to polarizing domestic politics, affecting people-to-people ties, and diminishing Chinese economic interest in the Philippines. Meanwhile, Beijing remains unmoved, weathering reputational costs and continuing to wield a capacity for escalation in the South China Sea. As long as China maintains its pressure campaign, this convergence between the Philippines and its allies and close partners is set to continue. The China Coast Guard expelled a Philippine vessel that illegally entered waters off Huangyan Island in the South China Sea on Thursday. In a statement on Thursday, Gan Yu, a spokesperson for the China Coast Guard, reported that a vessel from the Philippine Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources had illegally intruded into the adjacent waters of China's Huangyan Island, disregarding China's repeated warnings. He added that the Coast Guard had lawfully implemented measures to control the vessel's route, forced it to leave, and handled the situation on site with professional standards. He stressed that China holds indisputable sovereignty over Palawan Island and its adjacent waters. The Chinese Coast Guard consistently carries out law enforcement activities to safeguard rights within China's jurisdictional waters, resolutely upholding national sovereignty and maritime interests, he noted. The Philippines' transparency approach has yet to deter China. Quite the opposite. China has upped the pressure on its smaller neighbor. A respite came after the 8th round of the Philippines-China bilateral consultative mechanism held in Shanghai last month. After making vociferous protests, Manila recognized that it would take more than naming and shaming to stop Beijing in the South China Sea, let alone getting it to comply with the landmark 2016 ruling on their dispute by an arbitral tribunal at The Hague that ruled largely in its favor.